So, since the 60th anniversary specials of Doctor Who, fans have been searching back and forth for an answer to Bigeneration, the supposed quote-unquote myth where a Time Lord, instead of regenerating into their next incarnation, will separate the next incarnation from the other, allowing two of the same Time Lord to exist at once without making the timelines go out of sync, as has been seen with previous multi-Doctor stories. Now, regular viewers of the channel will be aware of my ideas surrounding Bigeneration and a retcon that Russell T Davies wants to make to Doctor Who, and that is this instance of Bigeneration not being the first time it's happened. I expanded on this concept by theorising that if it does happen, then a split timeline is created wherein that Doctor doesn't regenerate. Watch my video on Bigeneration for more details because I don't really want to repeat myself here. However, after rewatching the 60th episodes and the recent double bill of the new series, while also looking at the information we currently have on the show going forward, I think I might have come to an almost conclusive theory on why Bigeneration is only happening right now. So I'll start off first by breaking down the retcon Russell wants to make with the show. Now, I want to start off by saying that this is not yet canon and won't be until Russell decides to implement it into the show. Like the recent statement he made on whether 14 will return and that he apparently dies in some kind of whirlpool in 2063 or something. Until it gets depicted on screen or in the expanded media, then it isn't canon, at least in my eyes. Anyway, during the in-vision commentary for the Giggle, which depicted the Bigeneration, Russell revealed that his personal theory is that the Bigeneration affected the Doctor's whole timeline, meaning that previous incarnations from the classic and new series would continue to exist beyond their on-screen regenerations, mirroring an audio drama series called The Nest Cottage Chronicles by Paul Magers, I don't know how to pronounce that, which was originally intended to depict a retired version of the Fourth Doctor after his regeneration. This theory of Russell's is also meant to explain aged versions of the Doctor, such as the older variants of 5, 6 and 7 in Tales of the TARDIS, and the Curator scene in Day of the Doctor. So what exactly is Bigeneration? Well, in Doctor Who lore, we have seen the Doctor simply expel regeneration energy upon dying as he changes into his next incarnation. In the case of Bigeneration, however, the process is somewhat different, as instead of the energy expelling, it will instead internalise, and the next incarnation will separate itself from the previous, having to be pulled in opposite directions to do so. For a moment, the two incarnations would share a body like conjoined twins, but eventually they will separate and occupy their own respective bodies. Another important note is that whatever clothes worn by the one Bigenerating would be split between the two. In the case of the 15th Doctor, he got 14's dress shirt, tie, underpants, socks and shoes, which basically means for that final fight, 14 was basically commando beneath the trousers, but we'll gloss past that for now. Anyway, as mentioned by 15 in the episode, Bigeneration is supposed to be a myth and had been believed so by the Time Lords. So ignoring Russell's theory for now, the only question is why is Bigeneration only happening now and why hasn't it happened before? But to actually answer the question of why Bigeneration is only cropping up at this specific moment, we needed to go back to the second special for the 60th anniversary, Wild Blue Yonder, which sees 14 and Donna facing off against the Not Things, entities from the void beyond the universe that could imitate others visually from their thoughts and memories. In this episode, the Doctor invoked a superstition about a line of salt holding back vampires, demons and ghosts in a game against the Not Things, but they discerned his act was just a ploy and blew away the line. 14 later wondered that if there would be consequences for invoking a superstition at the edge of the universe, where the walls were very thin and all things were very much possible. The Doctor later learned this to be true, as invoking that superstition at the edge of the universe and playing the game with the salt had allowed myths and legends to cross the line and enter the universe, starting with the Toymaker and going forward with other villains we've seen, but I'll get to that in a moment. So why exactly is this specific moment in Wild Blue Yonder important? Well, let me explain. Now, Russell has said that this new era of Doctor Who would be leaning more into fantasy with its stories. That seems to be the case with the Bogeyman and Space Babies, the Goblins in the Church on Ruby Road, and the introduction of Maestro and the Devil's Court. These villains cropping up only now seems to be a consequence of the Doctor's actions on that spaceship in Wild Blue Yonder. And RTD has also said that going forward we would start to see more godlike villains crop up in the show, which gives me hope for the Doctor and Ruby to hopefully come across some Lovecraftian horror monsters like Cthulhu or the Kraken, the latter of which is something I would love to see one day, especially if we're introducing more stuff from other mythologies. Okay, now getting to my theory on all of this. I think the Doctor himself is actually responsible for making Bigeneration possible in the first place. By invoking that superstition at the edge of the universe, the Doctor allowed all manner of myths and legends to enter reality, and as mentioned in the Giggle, the 15th Doctor stated that Bigeneration is supposed to be a myth, and by allowing those myths and legends to cross the threshold, the Doctor was responsible for not only the Toymaker and his legions to enter the physical realm, but also for allowing a long-believed myth of the Time Lords to become reality. 15 later stated in the Devil's Court that the process of Bigeneration tore his soul in half, and it's more than likely he wouldn't be able to survive that process again if it does happen in future. This means that eventually 14 and 15 will either re-emerge in a Logopolis-style regeneration, or 14 will return to tie up his story thread in a different way. But that concludes my new theory on Bigeneration. I think this one is a bit more believable than my last one, and I think it fits into the story that Russell and the writers on the new Doctor Who team seem to be building with the show and the more fantastical elements being introduced. I for one would love to see a story with the Doctor meeting King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. I think there's a lot of potential there if you're looking for fantasy especially. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, then be sure to drop a comment below with your own ideas, like the video and share it around, but also don't forget to subscribe to the channel for future content, and thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you all soon.